My name is Caitlin Crawford, and I'm doing my presentation on Lent in the Catholic faith. Today I'm going to be explaining to y'all how Catholics celebrate Lent, what we do during that time, what Lent is, and why we celebrate Lent. It has a lot of background to it because it is a very, very historical holiday or practice, starting back to after Jesus was crucified. We used it as like a memorial or like a reference to the struggles he went through for 40 days and 40 nights before he began his public practice of Catholicism to the people. Starting this off, Catholics practice during the Lenten season, which is that 40-day span that starts on Ash Wednesday and ends on Easter Day. It's been celebrated for many years. It's a very ancient celebration for us, or a practice for us, and it's a time for us to recognize before Easter what Jesus had done to get to that point where he was crucified. As I'd mentioned before, Ash Wednesday is a holiday that we use to kind of kick off. I wouldn't even call it really a holiday, but more of a practice. It's a mass that we have where after communion you go back up, you get a cross put on your forehead with ashes from palm leaves, which is another symbolic thing for us as Catholics. It was on February 26th of this year, which wasn't that long ago, so we're right in the middle of that span now. It's going to be ending soon. It kind of just is a way for us to start our 40 days, and on that day, you're not allowed to eat meat as well. And then any Friday during the Lenten season, you are not allowed to eat meat. So a little bit more about Lent. Lent is practiced for 40 days, as I've said, leading up to Easter. Britannica states, imitation of Jesus Christ fasting in the wilderness before he began his public ministry. So all this really is a way for us to show our appreciation and show our faith and how strong we are in our faith because of Jesus and what he had done for us in the past. Easter marks the last day of Lent and wraps up the Lenten season, which is the same day that Jesus returned from the dead and rose from the tomb. And for us is just a day for us to celebrate him and his birth and coming back into the world. Does anybody here celebrate Lent? Not really as a Catholic, you don't even have to do that, but just in general. Only reason I ask is because there are sub-holidays or sub-practices in Lent, and if anybody knows anything about them, just feel free to raise your hand. But as touched on before, there are 3 major sub-holidays during the Lenten season. There's Ash Wednesday, the first day, Good Friday, which is the last weekend mass that you will have before Easter, and then Easter is the day that Jesus rose from the dead, which will be that Sunday following Good Friday. And there's that for you. Pretty much during these days, it's just another day where you go to Mass. It's a certain Mass that we have for each day. It makes things a little bit more official for us. It makes us feel like we are doing something better for Jesus himself. And what do you do during Lent? Lent is a pretty broad holiday. You can take it as you want it. Most people will celebrate it by giving up something or fasting, not always for like the 40 days, but at least maybe for like a weekend or for just the day on Fridays, because that's the day that we're not allowed to eat meat. You can eat fish, but no meat is allowed because Jesus ate fish and bread and broke it for everybody. And that's pretty much all we really do. We go to church every Sunday. It's the same thing mostly, except for those 3 sub-holidays that I had talked about previously. And I'm going to wrap this up by saying that Lent is a very serious practice in the Catholic faith. You don't take your ashes off all day. Like, it is a very, very serious thing for us. We take very much pride in our celebration and our recognition for Jesus. Lent is always going to be 40 days long. It starts on that Ash Wednesday and ends on Easter. Practicing Lent starts right after baptism. Of course, like, you're not going to be able to fast as soon as you're like 2 years old, but just going to church with your family and everything else is definitely required. It's not really a requirement, but it'd be a good thing to do starting young so that it becomes an easier practice for you as you get older. I know personally I started as soon as I was baptized, and I got into the faith of giving up something pretty young. I'd say about 6 or 7. That's whenever I got really a good understanding for it. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up by asking, does anybody have any questions? If not, that's it.